What's going on? Jake here with Uncommon EDC, and today we're taking a look at the Benchmade Bailout. I have two versions to show you today. We'll start with the Grivery handle version with S90V blade steel. This one I got in a recent Going Gear subscription, and it's the more affordable of the two. I won't go so far as to say budget friendly because it's anything but that, but at least compared to the other one we're going to be taking a look at, a little bit more on the affordable side. And then the second one we have is the burnt copper aluminum handles with MagnaCut blade steel. This one comes to me by way of Zach's stuff in the Apex Pass Around group. So huge shout out to them for allowing me to take a look at it. This will be going off to the next channel after I finish this video. Now, I mentioned price point, pretty wide variety here. This knife's been out for a decent amount of time, so there's a lot of different offerings. We're only really talking about these two, but if there's other blade steels you're looking for, they may have made it already. If there's other just kind of handle configurations you're looking for, that may be available as well. So definitely look through that. I'm going to be linking to these two in the description of the video. So up first for the price, we have our Grivery handle version with the S30V. This one comes in at $200. So like I said, not exactly budget friendly, but in comparison to our more premium offering here with the burnt copper aluminum and MagnaCut steel, this one's coming in at $350. So a price difference of $150. And again, they have a little bit of everything in between, even a little bit higher than that. I think there's some aluminum handle versions that are in the $400 range. And so again, I'll link to these two options in the description of the video. If you just click on Bailout at the top of the page, you can see all of the offerings that are currently available. But these are the two we'll be linking to. Now, is it worth the price difference? That's a big question here. And for me, the answer is probably not. I think I prefer the Grivery version regardless of price, but it's really going to depend on what you prioritize when it comes to pricing. For a lot of people, I know these Grivery handles are a deal breaker, especially on a knife that costs $200. There's flex to them, they look and feel a little bit cheaper, and so they just won't buy a knife that has Grivery handles. And so in that case, your option is pretty much aluminum handles if you're going just kind of stock from Benchmade. But you can also go with aftermarket scales. There's aluminum and titanium scales available aftermarket. My go-to has been AWT, and those usually run about $90. So if you were to buy this Grivery model with S30V, upgrade the scales, you're looking at about $290, which is still $60 cheaper than the other version there. But that's not the only thing to take into consideration. It's also the blade steel. So obviously there's other stuff available, stuff like M4, but if you're going from S30V to MagnaCut, is it worth that $150 price point? I think almost everyone's going to say no, it's not, unless you work somewhere where you just are in the most extreme conditions and that MagnaCut's going to make a difference. I probably wouldn't pay that much difference just for the blade steel, but for the entire package combined, you get the aluminum scales, which look a little bit better. They're also a little bit more ergonomic. So the dimensions of these are going to be exactly the same, but with the Grivery handles, they tend to have sharp interior edges, which can kind of scrape up against your finger if you slide your finger across them. And so it's not super uncomfortable. It's definitely not going to cut you or cause any damage or anything like that, but it is noticeable difference compared to our aluminum handled versions. And so the ergos are going to be a little bit better on that more premium offering. And so all of that combined, you may say, yeah, it's worth that $150 price point. For me, probably still not, but I'm glad I got to take a look at it. It is very nice, and I do love the battle worn finish, I think is what they call it, which is just their stonewash black blades. I think it looks great. This one's a really messy stonewash, which is my favorite. Of the messier the better, but I think that looks really great overall. Now, when it comes to the knife itself, these are part of their Out series. So there's a bunch of them: Bugout, Bailout, Taggedout, probably a couple others I'm not thinking of, and each serves a pretty specific role. The Bugout's an everyday carry knife. The Bailout is a more tactical knife, which is why we have that Tanto style blade. And then stuff like the Taggedout is part of their Hunt series, and so all really designed to fit into a specific niche. The Bailout here I think is pretty well rounded though. It's obviously more tactical with that Tanto blade. It's going to be fine for puncturing, obviously. Really good for opening packages and things like that, just getting that tip in there. But it also has this really long straight edge, which makes it pretty versatile as an everyday carry in my opinion as well. It's going to be great for slicing as well, and just makes it a little bit more well-rounded just based on the size alone. 4.69 inches on our handle, so plenty of real estate obviously for that full 4-finger grip. Nice ramp here with some jimping integrated into our liner for our thumb to land on. Find that to be very comfortable. The liners on these, just like the Bugout, are just partial liners. They go maybe not even a third of the handle length, so it's just kind of up here in the front. And then the rest of the rigidity is coming from the backspacer back here, and our standoff back here, and then this mini back spacer or maybe even end spacer at the end, but you are still going to get that flex with the Grivery, which obviously you won't get so much with the aluminum handled versions. And again, the ergos are going to be identical in terms of just size and spacing, but this does feel more comfortable. Not only do you not have those sharper edges, it feels like it fills out the hand just a little bit better, but I don't think that's actually the case. They're very similar ergonomically. It may be a fraction thicker. I haven't actually measured that out, but just kind of off looks, they look to be fairly identical, but I do find that to be much more comfortable in hand. Continuing our look down the handles here, you can see we have a spot for that pocket clip. Reversible pocket clip here, we have the stubby deep carry pocket clip. These are tip up carry, and these will fit the full size as well, but it ships with that stubby, and there's a ton of aftermarket pocket clips available in this configuration with this screw configuration if you do want to customize it a little bit and swap those out, but I find these to be really solid, and again, reversible. Pretty much all of the Benchmade knives with these crossbar style locks are going to be fully ambidextrous. You can reverse the pocket clip. The crossbar lock obviously can be operated identically left or right handed, and then they do dual lug on their thumb stud, so they are fully ambidextrous for your lefties and righties. We have our lanyard slot down here at the back, and again, that's integrated into a sort of end spacer here, which is kind of a nice feature. And so instead of using just another standoff, they have this mini spacer that gives it a little bit more rigidity at the end of the knife, but also integrates that slot in a nice placement where it's out of the way of the blade opening, and obviously going to be identical here on our aluminum handled version. Now, I think I remember the original versions of these having a glass breaker. I may be mistaken, but it seems like most of the new offerings, they've gone with the lanyard slot. Not sure if that's just from feedback, maybe it's a little bit easier to implement, or just a random change they made, but you're going to see the lanyard slot on most of these new offerings, and again, crossbar style lock on both of them. Now, the action on these, the Grivery handle version feels a little bit better to me, but that's really going to be specific. It's not going to be the same for your example since you're not going to get these exact versions of them. And so I would imagine that with the break-in period of a regular Benchmade, they're all going to be pretty similar. Now, I'm not sure why mine's a little bit better than the pass around. It could be that this one's not broken in yet, but it could also be that it's been to a couple of channels and maybe it just needs a little bit of a cleaning. But either way, they're both pretty solid. You have that nice kind of snappy action out of them. It doesn't have a super gummy feel, which you can get with crossbar style locks. It feels like a pretty nice implied detent where you can see I can snap that thing out of there really quickly and easily. So very equal opening with your thumb or your middle finger, plenty of access to both. For our blade, we get a 3.4-inch Tanto style blade, and again, you do have that sort of combo edge, so it's going to be a little bit more complicated to sharpen, but overall going to be very usable for your everyday needs as well. Obviously, like I said, especially for opening packages, you can get just that little bit of a tip in there, and there's an ant crawling across my board, a little bit of a tip in there, and then you have that nice slicing area as well. We have the sharpening tool here at the back, plenty of access to that. Thumb studs tucked nicely out of our cutting path, nice wedge at the top of the blade. Overall, just a nice blade shape on here. Again, the steel is going to depend on what you choose, but it's going to be about a 3.125-inch cutting edge. Other thing to take into consideration is the weight. One of the biggest considerations, one of the reasons I prefer the Grivery version, is it comes in at 1.92 ounces. I weighed in the aluminum handled version at 2.46 ounces, which is still pretty lightweight, especially for a knife this size, but you're shaving a full ½ ounce off with the Grivery handles. And that's a major selling point for me because the Bugout and the mini Bugout are two of my most carried knives during the summer, and I would assume this is going to extend to this because it's so lightweight. It's just so easy to toss when you're just wearing basketball shorts or other elastic waistband pants. You can just toss that in there without it weighing them down a whole lot, and I love that about them. I've never had issue with Grivery. I'm not hard using them enough where they're breaking on me or causing any sort of issue. So for me, I'd rather pay the lower price point and get a still very, very solid steel and an ultra lightweight knife. And so again, 2.46 ounces. I noticed online a lot of places aren't differentiating between the different models for the weight, and so they're just going with the kind of generic listed weight. Even someone like Blade HQ, I think they had it both listed at 2.7 ounces, which is pretty close for the aluminum. It was still a little bit lighter than that, but way off for our 1.92 ounces that we get on the Grivery. Let me know what you think of these down in the comments below. As always, if you enjoyed the video, consider liking, commenting, subscribing, checking out some other content, using the links in the description. A lot of them will be affiliate links that earn the channel a little bit money at no additional cost to you, and sometimes even integrate a coupon code, or I'll list a coupon code next to them where you can get some savings there as well. So definitely worthwhile for you as well. But again, would love to hear your thoughts on these. Check out, I believe Tim's School of Fish is where this one's going to be going next, so check out his video on it once that comes out, and then ultimately it will be going back to Zach's stuff, so check out his channel as well. But thanks for watching, and I hope you have a great one. Take care.